Dear students, welcome back to MNS Digital Classes. The topic of this lecture is stellar spectra, stellar mass, and size. This is the fourth lecture of this astrophysics module. Stellar spectra. Almost all stars show a continuum spectrum with absorption lines. The spectrum of each star is unique. No two stars can have identical spectra. The missing photons, that is the absorption lines, gives the information about the chemical composition, temperature, and density of the stars. The importance of studying the stellar spectra is the most peak wavelength indicates the surface temperature of the star, that is color of the star. Already we discussed this. The area under the stellar spectrum is an indication of the total power emitted, that is the luminosity of the star. The absorption lines in the stellar spectra gives an indication of what elements are present in the atmosphere of the star, and therefore an idea about what type of fusion reactions are taking place inside the core, and hence it also gives us an idea regarding the age of the star. The stellar spectra gives us an important information about the binaries. The continuum spectrum of a star provides the information about the temperature of the surface, and the absorption and emission lines tell us what elements are present under what conditions. So the conclusion is, just by studying the stellar spectrum, we can learn many things. We can understand many important futuristic properties of the stars, such as we come to know about the surface temperature and color of the star, the total luminosity of the star. We get the composition of the star, what type of nuclear reactions are occurring inside the core of the star, and also it helps in knowing the age of the star, and also it gives us idea about the binary nature of the stars. Almost 90% of the stars exist in the form of binary or multiple star systems. So this is what the information we can gather by studying the stellar spectra. Stellar spectral classification. The stars, visible stars and other stars are classified on the basis of the spectra. As the radiation passes through the photosphere, that is the surface region which the most radiation originates, the radiation at particular wavelength is absorbed by the ions and atoms to give a spectrum containing dark absorption lines. I will repeat again. When the radiation coming out of the core, as it passes through the solar atmosphere, the ions and atoms present in the atmosphere absorbs particular wavelengths, and corresponding to that, the spectrum contains the dark or absorption lines corresponding to that particular elements or the ions. These absorption lines in the spectrum permits to group the stars depending on the degree of excitation and ionization of the atoms and ions in the photosphere. This method of classification of the stars is called as Harvard's classification. The presence of dark absorption lines in the spectrum is the basis for Harvard classification. Before going to understand in depth about the Harvard system of classification of the stars, let us have a glance of historical development in the Harvard classification of the stars. This picture represents 6 pioneers who led to the development of Harvard classification system. This Harvard classification forms the Bible for the astronomers to understand the different stars. To begin with, the first initiation was taken by Angelo Secchi in 1866. It is an Italian astronomer who observed the spectra of more than 4,000 stars, and he divided them into four broad classes by common spectral absorption features. Class 1, Class 2, Class 3, Class 4. He classified those 4,000 stars into four classes based on the spectral absorption lines. The spectral classification scheme was developed at Harvard Observatory by Henry Draper, who photographed the first spectrum of Vega in 1872. After his death, his wife donated the equipment and the sum of money to the observatory to continue his work. Around 1880s, the astronomer Edward C. Pickering began to make the survey of stellar spectra at the Harvard College Observatory, using the objective prism method, and obtained the spectra of more than 220,000 stars. In order to analyze the spectra of these stars, he appointed a group of women. They are popularly called as Harvard computers. At that time, computer system was not yet fully established. To analyze the spectra obtained by the various stars, a group of women were appointed. With the analysis done by this group of women, in 1890, Edward Pickering and Williamina Fleming classified most of the spectra and more than 10,000 stars in this catalog. They published a catalog which is called as Henry Draper Catalog of Stellar Spectra. In this catalog, it contains more than 10,000 stars. The catalog used a scheme which the previously used was by Secchi classes. That is, as I explained, Secchi grouped the stars into four classes. These four classes were subdivided into more specific classes according to their relative strength of the hydrogen absorption lines in the spectrum, and given the labels with capital letters running alphabetically from A, B, C to N. Pickering classified those stars based on the relative strength of the hydrogen absorption lines, starting in alphabetical manner A, B, C to up to N. From this classification from A to N is based on the strongest absorption line to weakest absorption line of the hydrogen atom. Also, in addition to this, the letters O, P, and Q were also used. O for the spectra consisting mainly of bright lines, P for planetary nebulae, and Q for stars which are not fitting to any other classes. In 1897, another worker at the Harvard Observatory, Antonia Maury, placed RN subtype of Secchi class 1 ahead of remainder Secchi class 1, thus placing the modern type B ahead of modern type A. She was the first to do so, although she did not use the lettered spectral types, but rather the series of 20 types numbered from 1 to 22. Antonia Maury modified the Pickering's spectral classification and she rearranged suitably, and then these spectral classes are grouped into 1 to 22 types in Roman numerals. This catalog modification made by Antonia Maury for the Pickering classification was published in 1901. In 1901, Annie Jump Cannon returned with the letter types, but the modification made by Antonia Maury was discarded. Annie Jump Cannon returned back to the letter types of classification, but dropped all the letters except O, B, A, F, G, K, and M, used in that order, as well as P for planetary nebulae, Q for some peculiar spectra, and she also used the types such as B5A for stars halfway between B and A, use the symbols B5A for the stars between B and A, and so on. Finally, with all these modifications made over a span of 11 years, in 1912, Annie Jump Cannon had changed the types of the stars into different classes. And finally, she came out with the modern spectral classification scheme, which is known as Harvard Spectral Classification Scheme. Now let us, with this brief idea regarding the historical background, let us come back to the topic, Harvard Classification System. The modern spectral classification scheme, also known as Harvard Spectral Classification Scheme, was created by Annie Jump Cannon through her examination over a spectra over 4 lakh stars from 1918 to 1924. As I just explained regarding the history of spectral classification, in 1901, she noticed the stellar temperature was the principal distinguishing feature among the different spectra. The older methods used by the Pickering and other scientists was the hydrogen absorption lines present in the hydrogen spectrum was the key feature for classifying the stars. But Annie Cannon-Jump noticed that rather than the absorption lines of hydrogen spectrum, the stellar's temperature is the key feature which gives us the perfectness in the stellar classification. She found that there was significant overlap between the types and some letters were to be dropped. The original scheme of running alphabets was logically reordered. The Pickering classification, which runs from in the alphabetical order A to N, was discarded, and these alphabetical arrangements of the stars are logically reordered into 7 primary classes to reflect the surface temperature of the stars rather than the absorption lines present in the hydrogen spectrum. This arrangement was done according to the hottest to the coolest star. So, in the order of decreasing temperature, these types were O, B, A, F, G, K, M. The Annie Jump Cannon's contribution is actually these classes were originally made by Pickering, but that classification was made according to the strength of the relative strength of the spectra absorption lines in the hydrogen spectrum, but that was not fitting to properly. So the modification made by Cannon is she rearranged these classes in the spectral scheme O, B, A, F, G, K, M, and this arrangement is in the order of decreasing temperature. O class star corresponding to hottest, then M class star corresponds to coolest star in the sky. Let us have a brief look at the variation. A star with surface temperature approximately about 50,000 corresponds to O class. Then as it cools down, the temperature falls down, the O, B, A, F, G, K, M stars. Here is the color appearance with the temperature. They are lettered O, B, A, F, G, K, M in such a way that strongest to weakest absorption lines, hottest to coolest in terms of temperature, bluest to reddest in terms of color, biggest to smallest in terms of size. So This classification is based on four physical parameters: relative strength of the hydrogen lines, absorption lines, temperature, color, and also the size. Here in bracket we mentioned WRNS. W is the Wolf-Rayet stars. RNS is the stars which are forms the asymptotic giant branch. These are not used in nowadays, so only the scheme left out is the seven classes O, B, A, F, G, K, M. Further, Canon added 10 subdivisions starting from 0 to 9 in these seven primary classes. For example, G0, G1, G subclass is further divided into 10 classes, G0 to G9. Similarly, K subclass is divided into 0 to Z0 to G9. In such a way that G0 corresponds to hotter star and early type star, and G9 corresponds to later type star and cooler star, with each category to provide finer distinctions between the stars in each group. For example, BO stars are hotter and are called early type stars, and B9 stars are cooler and they are called as late type stars. The work was published in Henry Draper Catalog and Henry Draper Extension, which contained the spectra of over 2,25,300 stars down to 9th magnitude scale. According to one of the astronomical myths, Henry Norris Russell in 1920 suggested the following mnemonic to assist the students in remembering the spectral scheme. The order of spectral type letters from hottest to coolest. According to him, this astronomical myth, the spectral classification OBA find OBA FGKM can be remembered with this mnemonic: OBA fine girl or guy, kiss me. Now, let us understand the chemical composition of the star. The spell, as we discussed in the beginning of this lecture, the stellar spectra gives us the information regarding the chemical composition of the star. It was initially thought that the different spectral lines meant for different compositions, such as A stars being composed mostly the hydrogen and M stars mostly composed of oxides of molecules of different elements. But in 1921, Cecilia Payne and Meghna Saha gave a first comprehensive theoretical interpretation of the stellar spectra based on the new atomic physics, that is quantum mechanics, developed at that time. In 1925, Cecilia Payne published his PhD research work in which she clearly gave the explanation regarding the basis for the chemical composition based on the stellar spectra. They showed that the stars are mostly hydrogen and helium and small traces of all the other metals. Discarding the earlier hypothesis of stars having higher temperature mainly consists of hydrogen, and cooler stars, the M-class stars, mainly consists of metal oxide. That hypothesis was discarded, and Cecilia Payne and Meghna Saha clearly established that irrespective of their surface temperature, most of the stars mainly consist of hydrogen and helium. In addition to that, the small traces of other metals, depending on their surface temperature. It was the Saha who first realized that the strengths of the spectral lines by themselves do not give us the chemical composition of a stellar atmosphere. The matter of the same composition can produce very different spectra when kept at different temperatures. So Saha found that Just the chemical composition will not give us the unique spectra. The spectra of any star depends on composition as well as the temperature. Saha developed his famous theory of thermal ionization and provided the satisfactory explanation for why the spectra of stars with different surface temperatures looks different. Now let us understand the composition of various types of stars. The hydrogen absorption lines in the part of spectrum at visible wavelengths all arise from hydrogen atoms with electron in the first excited state. In case of E-class stars, whose surface temperature is about 11,000 to 30,000 Kelvin, they mostly possess hydrogen in ionized state. So only weak hydrogen lines, not much of hydrogen around with electrons to make the absorption lines. Whereas the stars, A-class stars having surface temperature about 7,500 to 11,000 Kelvin, they mainly consist of their ideal excitation conditions and they possess the strongest hydrogen lines. In case of G-class stars having temperatures 5200 to 5900 Kelvin, they are too cool, little excitation of hydrogen atom, so the spectrum possesses only weak hydrogen lines because the electrons are mostly in the ground state instead of being first excited states. So observe that as the temperature falls down, the electrons will be in different excited states. So the spectrum of the stars with hydrogen atom looks different in different temperature conditions. That is because of the position of the electrons in various excited states. Now let us understand this spectrum. This spectrum gives us an idea regarding the color and chemical composition of the stars corresponding to various spectral regions. Now observe here the dark lines appearing in the spectrum gives us the idea regarding the type of elements present in the stars. If you consider O-class stars, we observe that only the hydrogen and the helium are dominating. As we move to the hottest to the coolest stars, that is M-class stars, we observe that the dark lines are missing here for the hottest stars, that is corresponding to titanium, iron, titanium oxide, sodium, and other elements, magnesium, iron, etc. Now observe here for cooler stars, we observe many more dark lines rather than O-class stars, which contains very few dark absorption lines. Means the cooler stars, in addition to the hydrogen, they contain metal oxides and other heavy elements in their atmosphere. Whereas the hotter stars mainly composed of hydrogen and helium. This spectrum clearly gives us idea regarding the chemical composition of various stars. Now, let us have a table which gives us the spectral classification with the features of different spectral classes. The spectral type, if we take O5 to O9, the temperature is about 40,000 to 25,000. The appearance of these stars are blue to bluish white. The main features of these type of stars is emission lines of helium-2 or oxygen-2, absorption lines of helium-2, helium-1, O, oxygen-2, silicon, O, nitrogen-3, carbon-3 dominate in the spectrum. The lines of neutral hydrogen-1 are also relatively weak. No stars are found. The remarking feature of this one is just we have O5 to O9, O10 to O5. That is the stars earlier than O5 are not found. Let us briefly glance the table. B0 to B9, that is B class stars, have the temperature 25,000 to 11,000. Their color varies from blue to bluish white, and in this case absorption lines due to helium-1 dominates, and also the Balmer lines are observed. Some stars in the constellation of Orion belongs to these classes. The next one is A0 to A9. The surface temperature varies from 11,000 Kelvin to 7,500 Kelvin. These stars appear to be whitish in colors. Here, Balmer lines of hydrogen 1 are very strong. These stars are called as hydrogen stars. Examples of these classes include Vega and Sirius. Then F-class stars, F0 to F9. The temperature of these stars vary from 7,600 Kelvin to 6,000 Kelvin. Their appearance is whitish to yellowish white. The Balmer lines of hydrogen are weaker than in class A lines of calcium, iron, titanium, etc. Proton is a typical star in this class. Next comes the G-class stars, whose surface temperature is about 6,000 Kelvin to 5,000 Kelvin. They appear yellowish white to yellow stars. The Balmer lines of hydrogen are still weaker in this class of stars. The lines of calcium-2 are at maximum in these classes. Also, the lines of neutral metals like iron, iodine, etc. are formed. The Sun belongs to this group, this class, and it is a G2 class star. Another notable star in this class is Capella. Next one is the K class, K0 to K9. The surface temperature of these stars varies from 5,500 Kelvin to 3,500 Kelvin. And the color varies from deep yellow to orange to red. The Balmer lines of hydrogen are very weak in this spectral class. And examples of this class are Arcturus and Aldebaran. N-class stars have the temperatures varying from 3,600 to 3,000 Kelvin, and they appear reddish in color. In this spectra, hydrogen lines are scarcely present, and neutral metal lines are at maximum strength. The molecular bonds of titanium oxide are also dominating the spectrum. The stars like Betelgeuse and Antares belong to these classes. In addition to this, we have three more classes, R, C, and S, corresponding to asymptotic giant branches. They have the temperatures around 3,000 Kelvin. They appear to be reddish in color. Usually, these stars are called as carbon stars. The next physical parameter is the mass of the star, stellar masses. Now, the question is how to measure the mass of the star. There is no direct practical method for measuring the mass of an isolated star. But most of the stars in the night sky form multiple star systems which are eclipsing one around the other due to mutual gravitational interaction. Such stars are called as binary star systems. If the star forms a pair of multiple binary system or multiple star system, then this binary system will use a method to determine the mass of the star. If a star is a member of a binary system, then their mass can be easily determined by the following method. Let us understand the method of finding the mass. If we take two stars having the masses M1 and M2, then if they are eclipsing one around the other about their center of mass, if A1 is the distance of the star of mass M1 about the center of mass is A1, and similarly the distance of this star of mass M2 is A2, then A1 plus A2 is the distance of separation between the stars. Consider the two stars M1 and M2 orbiting around their center of gravity or center of mass as shown in this figure. Now, if their distances from C, that is the center of mass, is A1 and A2 respectively, then M1 A1 is equal to M2 A2. Applying the law of moments, we get this. And rearranging the terms, we get the ratio of the mass M1 by M2 is equal to A2 by A1. Call this as equation 1, where A is, in this equation, A is A1 plus A2. It gives a separation between the two stars. Now, let us apply Kepler's third law. Kepler's third law states that the square of the time period of revolution is directly proportional to cube of the semi-major axis. Here, so mathematically we can write P square is proportional to A cube, where P is the orbital period and A is the distance. The general form of Kepler's third law is given by the expression M1 plus M2 is equal to A cube by P square into 4 pi square by G. We are rearranging the term. This P square is proportional to A cube is rearranged with the proportionality constant, and it comes out to be M1 plus M2 is equal to A cube by P square into G 4 pi square by G. If the mass of the stars is expressed in terms of solar mass units and distances are in astronomical units and the period in the unit of years, then the factor 4 pi square by G is taken as equal to 1, and therefore this equation gets modified as M1 plus M2 is equal to A cube by P square. Call this as equation 2. Now we have two unknown quantities M1 and M2 and two equations M1 by M2 is equal to A2 by A1 and M1 plus M2 is equal to A cube by P square. Solving these two equations by knowing the period P and separation A, we can calculate the mass of the stars, mass of the individual stars with the knowledge of M1 plus M2 and M1 by M2 using equations 1 and 2. This method, using the Kepler's laws and applying Kepler's law for a binary system, helps us in estimating the mass of the star. The next physical parameter of a star is stellar size. When we see through a powerful telescope, the stars appears as bright points. The brighter stars looks larger than the fainter stars. Actually, it is not true. The size, what we observe in the sky is not the actual size. The size depends on how far it is present from the earth, and also it depends on how much it is the brighter. So, for example, the moon appears to be bigger than the distant stars. That is because moon is very close to the earth. The actual size or the radius of the star can be determined by using Stephen Boltzmann's law. If L is the luminosity and T is the surface temperature, if you know these two parameters, then easily we can estimate the size of the star using Stephen Boltzmann's law. We already know that Stephen Boltzmann's law gives the estimation of energy flux as a function of temperature. Energy flux is proportional to surface temperature, 4th power of its surface temperature. If L is the luminosity of the star, then L is equal to energy flux into area. If we substitute all the values, then we get L is equal to 4 pi sigma r square T power 4. Now rearrange the terms for R. The equation for the size of the star, radius of the star is given by R is equal to square root of L divided by 4 pi sigma T power 4. So by knowing the luminosity and surface temperature of the star, we can estimate its size, that is the radius. Now observe here we have a plot of surface temperature as a function of the luminosity of the star in terms of luminosity of the sun. So as a fraction of luminosity of sun, we get various values. We observe that for less luminous stars, the radius is also small. 0.01 times the solar radii, they occupy this position. White dwarfs having the radius 0.01 times the solar radius, main sequence stars 0.1 to 1 times the solar radius. This forms the main sequence stars, red giants, supergiants. Red giants have the size approximately 10 times the solar radius. Supergiants 100 times to 10,000 times the solar radius. This picture clearly gives us the size of different types of stars, main sequence, red giant, supergiant, white dwarfs. Thank you.